is that to treat our guests?
Crazy bitch!
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2025 dark comedy thriller Borderline. The film is written and directed by Jimmy Warden, and it stars Samara Weaving, Ray Nicholson, Eric Dane, Jimmy Fails and Alba Baptiste. The film focuses on Samara Weaving's character Sophia, who is a famous star. She's a pop star. She's very, very famous. It's set in 1990s Los Angeles. And she has a stalker, played by Ray Nicholson, Paul. Now, this stalker, at the beginning of the film, turns up at the house, insisting on seeing Sophia because he's going to propose. Her head of security, Eric Dane's character, Belle, tries to talk him down, basically, this stalker. Tries to talk sense to him and ends up getting seriously injured as a result. This ends up with the stalker getting put in jail, and it jumps forward a year. He is now fully recovered, Eric Dane's character, from being injured, and this stalker then, with assistance, escapes from, I think it's a mental health unit, something like that, and immediately goes after Sophia again, but with assistance this time. What follows is a crazy night of stalking, violence and desperation, and even a wedding. What are my thoughts on Borderline? Well, I didn't really know what to expect from this. The guy that directed this and wrote it, Jimmy Warden, it's his first it's his directorial debut, but it's the guy that wrote Cocaine Bear, and I think he wrote The Babysitter. Those Netflix films? I think he did. So this guy's obviously, he's got quite a dark sense of humour. I think it's fair to say. And this film actually, does have a very, very dark sense of humour here. It takes a little bit to get going, but once it kind of does get going and you kind of start settling into the film, it becomes quite a compelling watch. Sometimes it definitely makes you giggle. It definitely made me giggle a few times. But also at the same time, it's quite hard-hitting and violent, and just very, very odd. There's a lot of ways you could describe this film. It doesn't lay its hat on any one thing. It could very easily just have been a thriller, this. If they'd have taken the sense of humour out of it, it would have made quite an interesting and compelling thriller about a stalker sort of thing. But because this writer-director has kind of thrown in a few more ingredients, it kind of makes it a bit surreal, dark at times, very odd and obscure, definitely violent, but ridiculous at the same time. It's got a lot of things kind of going for it. This not everything works. The ingredients don't all work. At times, the humour feels a bit off, and it deals with some quite dark subject matters here and there. But the sense of humour kind of always manages to kind of keep it at a baseline of enjoyment over shocks, I suppose. And it's at its very core, it's got a really fascinating performance by Ray Nicholson, who is, in actual fact, Jack Nicholson's son. And you can definitely tell that when you're watching this guy work. I've seen him 2 or 3 times recently. He was in Novocaine as the bad guy, and he was in Smile 2, but only briefly. He was that big smiley guy. And he plays a wonderfully manic role here of this guy, Paul, who is seriously disturbed. He He's absolutely convinced that he and Sophia are a couple. He's absolutely convinced that they're supposed to be getting married, and nothing will change his mind about this. However, because he's a very, very poorly chap, he makes mistakes in the sense of he'll see somebody else and assume that that's Sophia. At the beginning of the film, it's Eric Dane, her head of security. At the end of the film, it is Jimmy Fails' character Rhodes, who essentially is Sophia's boyfriend, if you like. And he really doesn't look like Sophia. So you've got this guy who is, you know, this Paul character, this stalker, who is completely and utterly head over heels in love with Sophia, but he thinks that's Sophia, and it's not, sort of thing. It's just odd, you know, and it's definitely it's got shades of his dad in his performance. He's tapped into that manic craziness that you get sometimes from Jack Nicholson in his performances. Really zany, over the top, and it works. You know what I mean? It's not pantomime. There are a couple of times, and you actually feel a little bit sorry for him. So it's played with a little bit of humanity as well. It's not just a cartoon character. It's not just over the top. There's a hint of humanity in his performance as well. And then you've got Alba Baptiste's character, Penny, who is this French young lady who Paul meets from the mental health facility. And I'm not kidding, guys. She is crazier than Paul. She's absolutely bonkers. And then there's another guy, this big guy, who he recruits, if you like, to help him. And again, he is, you know, one pork pie short of a picnic himself. He's not right. So you've got three of them, and they're all conspiring with him to give him the wedding of his dreams with Sophia. And then you've got Sophia, Eric Dane's character Belle, and Jimmy Fails' character Rhodes on the other side, who are trying desperately to stop this craziness from happening. So it's like this whole night of absolute bizarreness that cultivates in like the weirdest wedding ever sort of thing. But there is definitely a charm to this film. Pacing's not brilliant here and there, but if you're kind of patient, I must admit, when it started, I was kind of like, I don't know about this one. It took me a good 20 minutes or so to get into it, and then I started kind of buying into the film a little bit more, started connecting to the characters a little bit more, and I started to kind of enjoy it a little bit more. The humour kind of clicked for me a little bit, but there's also a good thriller here as well. I think it's balanced quite nicely, this one. It just kind of, I think it's just a little bit too odd, I think, for conventional audiences. I think it's probably going to be one of those that's just going to kind of sail under a lot of radars. And I'm not saying it's a masterpiece or anything, because it's not. It's definitely flawed. But I liked some of the aspects of this film. I liked the performances for sure, and I liked the idea and the concept too. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Borderline. If you get an opportunity to watch it, give it a go. It's something a little bit different, and it might just kind of click with you, sort of thing. So thanks for checking out this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I will, of course, be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.